Leslie.
And I'm Mariah.
And we're the faces behind Book Me, Bite Me. We provide fun and inspirational materials for international learners of English to improve their listening, reading, and vocabulary skills. This week, we've been continuing our read of Alexander Pushkin's The Tales of Belkin. Particularly, we read The Undertaker. Because I feel like this is we read The Undertaker separately.
Yep.
And this is our first time kind of discussing what we think and what we feel about the story. So previously I did a small summary and plot overview of The Undertaker, and now I get to have a reaction with Mariah.
Well, I'm really, really excited to see what you say, Leslie, because let's just say I like the snowstorm better.
Okay.
And at the end, I was kind of like, plop! Which means, give me more.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear a little bit about what appealed to you.
Okay.
So Leslie recommended we read this as our second story. And if you don't know, Pushkin is the author, Alexander Pushkin. He was Russian.
Yes.
Is Russian.
Yes. I think with this story initially, I felt it was different. Immediately, you could sense the difference from The Snowstorm, a love story, to this, which is more... It's more... I feel like more a realistic life situation, because you essentially have a guy, the Undertaker, who kind of overreacts and at a party and ends up saying things that he doesn't really mean, or in the moment he does mean, and then later on, like, it comes back to bite him in the butt. I'm inclined to do things like that. You know, I have moments where I am sensitive. I am just like the Undertaker, Adrian Prohovorich. I am sensitive about my job. I take my job as an educator to heart. You know, we're investing in people's lives, and you know, it's not uncommon for even some of my closer friends to kind of, I would say, unknowingly make fun of educators, or, you know, like little sentences that I hear, and I'm like, really, that's how lowly you think of my profession? And yet we have educated you to get you where you're at
today. So, and if you don't remember from Leslie's summary, what happens is he's at this dinner party, Prohorovich. The Undertaker is at this dinner party, and someone makes kind of a side comment, a joke about his profession, Yurko, saying, and who's a police officer, you know, officially through the Russian, he's a Russian official police officer. Oh, actually, I have it right here. They're all giving toasts to each other at this party, and like, here's to the health of my customers, here's to the health of my clients, here's to the health of, you know, all these wonderful people that, you know, are patrons of my business. And Urko turns to his neighbor, and Urko's a little bit of a joker, and he says, "See here, my friend, ain't you going to propose a toast to the health of your buried patrons?" So all of Prokhorich's patrons are dead people, because he is a mortician. He takes them from life into the casket. And you know, honestly, like, what you're saying is so interesting, because I was just like, that's funny, like, why would he get so offended? And what you're saying to me makes so much sense now, because if you care about your career and take it seriously and honor it, you want others to honor it as well, and see the value of it, which this career, The Undertaker, is an incredibly valuable career.
Yes. So I've never, like Adrian Prohorovich, The Undertaker, been so vocal in expressing my anger at someone, you know, criticizing or undermining my my profession as an educator, I am not an undertaker, but I think every profession has its value, and I've never been that vocal, but I have. Aside from that, I'm only referencing that as a point of relatability because I like to relate to my characters or find something that I can connect with. And I have said things in the heat of the moment that I later wish I had a second chance. And my mother always used to say that our words are like toothpaste that come out of the tube. Like
can't put that back in.
You can't put that back in. If you've ever put your toothpaste on your toothbrush, it's, trying to shove that back in, it just won't go back. And on another point, my dad has always said, when you flush toilet paper down the toilet, you don't reach back in and pull it back out and say, I'm going to make this fresh again. It just doesn't work that way. And, it's like he had a moment where the toothpaste was out of the tube. He used his toilet paper and
he made some, not enemies, but, the party was kind of dampened a little bit. He dampened the mood.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he goes back home and he has this nightmare about it, which is interesting. So you can see like his subconscious is really reflecting on all of this. And I don't know where you're going, but I want to say, like, going back to the snowstorm conversation where, the snowstorm was romantic, it was very unbelievable, even though I wanted to believe in it. Yeah. You're right. Like, this is real and this is reality. And it's interesting because I was just looking for a short story that would be considered realism. And for me, this wasn't realism on my read because I have no connection to an Undertaker.
Right.
And this is Russia in the late 1800s. And so it wasn't real for me, but you're right. It's the human psyche.
Yeah. Or situations that I think we've all, if you are human, we've all had moments where we've said something that we wish we could
put our foot in our mouth.
We wish that we could take back. And sometimes the damage is already done. But fortunately for Adrian Prohorovich, it's just a dream. As Mariah said, he ends up having a nightmare where his patrons come back to this party that he has. I mean, if you listen to the summary that I had earlier, you would know that he mutters off, he goes home drunk and he's muttering under his breath and he's like, I'll invite all of you to a party, except I'm not going to invite you. I'm going to invite all my dead friends, and I'll show you what a good time really is like. And then he ends up having this dream, except, it's a nightmare. So he wakes up in a panic, and in his nightmare, he does come home and has this party taking place, and they're all of his dead patrons, and he regrets it. And then when he wakes up, his servant is like, you were so drunk last night, and you were saying all this kind of stuff, and he's like, so-and-so didn't die from his nightmare, and they're like, no.
And so he thought it was 100% real. He had no idea that he was dreaming, and then anyway, it doesn't matter, but he was invited to another party, but the servant didn't want to wake him, and so that's kind of how he found out that he was dreaming, because she was like, you were so asleep, we didn't even want to disturb you, and he's like, thank God it was a dream. But the toothpaste still doesn't go back into the tube.
No, it doesn't. No. But he can change. I mean, that's the beauty of having those moments of realization, that it's never too soon to apologize, to retract your words, and to try and make things right, or to reset the tone. And this story made me think of, what's the story with Ebenezer Scrooge?
Yes,
Scrooge. Made me think of Scrooge. If you're unfamiliar, it's a popular Christmas tale, and it's of a man who's named Ebenezer Scrooge, and he has these ghosts that visit him at night during the holiday season, and they show him what the future will end up looking like if he continues
To make
being,
these choices.
continues making the bad choices, or, that's why people use the word Scrooge for a grumpy old man or a nasty person.
So going back to that idea of what ending would you give it? Would you offer him a happy ending? How would he overcome his challenges to become a better person? What lesson could this give readers? But it's interesting that you come with this realization that he has this realization or potential to have this realization, because there was one line in the reading that really got me. So at his dinner party, when the corpses came to wine and dine him, the first one he had ever buried came to him, and he was, he died in 1799, and the guy says, Peter Petrovich Kurulkin, the very man to whom in 1979 you sold your first coffin.
1799?
In my book, it's 1799.
I think you said 1979.
Did I?
Yeah.
1799, you sold your first coffin. Don't you remember that pine coffin which you kindly substituted for the oak one after the bargain was made and closed? And I underlined that and was like, why did they put that in there? What is the significance of the pine and the oak and da-da-da? So I went, did my little Google search, and oak and pine are pretty comparable, but the oak is in fact a little bit better quality, maybe not because of the wood, but the grain is to be more beautiful than the pine. The pine is the most economical choice. And so I guess what's happening here is that this Peter, the man he first buried, is reminding him that the kindness was there in Prokovich's life at one point. And so this corpse that he first buried is symbolically representing the kindness that once was. So, but it only took talking to you to figure that out. I didn't make that whole connection.
Well, I think that's a valuable connection, that there was once, you said there was once
a kindness to the Undertaker.
Yes.
But he lost it.
I don't know that he lost it. I think he was definitely tipsy, and I think that
My impression of him was like nasty man.
Really? Aww. I thought he was just like, he just had a bad moment.
Yeah.
Because I think he kind of lost himself in a little bit of drinking.
But I understood him differently, the way, I very much read him differently.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that's the beauty of having these talks.
Conversations,
that we can have different reads on people.
Or come bring it together for a fuller understanding.
Yes. Well, one thing that I did like about this particular scene in his nightmare that you bring up, my favorite part of that is where this guy, Peter Petrovich, the corpse that said what Mariah just quoted, he goes in for an embrace. He tries to hug Adrian Prohorovich, and Prohorovich kind of shoves him off, and the bones collapse. And the disapproval, the sentence I really liked from this is, a murmur of disapproval arose among the corpses. All of them stood in defense of their comrade's honor, hurling curses and threats at Adrian. And I just thought that was powerful, that the ones that are disapproving of his behavior, they're the corpses. And, it's often when it's too late that you have, a different reaction. So I thought there's something profound for me to say that these were corpses, these were dead folks that were kind of chastising and correcting Adrian for his bad behavior in a nightmare, no less.
It's interesting because if you make that parallel to Ebenezer Scrooge, I mean, he figures it out in his dreams, but this idea of we only are taught, or we think we're taught how to live correctly in that place of heaven or the afterlife or reincarnation or wherever that happens, but yet he has this opportunity to learn from the dead, but he's very much alive, and so the symbolicness of the corpses is interesting in that respect.
Well, I liked it. I love Russian literature. It just gets me in a place where I think I don't know what to expect. And I've read a lot of Russian literature, and I just this for me was one of those moments where is this going, and I don't know what to expect.
Yes.
And I like that. I like not knowing what is going to happen.
And I am not a reader of Russian literature. I've mentioned before, but Leslie has completely turned me onto this realm of literature, and I'm a convert for sure. I just need to learn how to better pronounce those Russian names.
On that note, until next time, happy reading
and happy eating.